about university tuition fees then? Will you remain committed to scrapping them?
It sucks, I think. The government is just letting down the students yet again.
They're all pledges, Andrew, so the answer to these questions is yes.
So you've been paying $9,250 for a couple of years. Do you feel like you're getting value for money?
Good question. What do you think?
So university tuition fees being scrapped will be in a Starmer manifesto?
Yes, that's why it's
The
in
next
play.
election? Okay.
I think the Tories completely the economy, and that's the reason the student fees are going up. I do think Labour's at least trying to look for some solutions for young people.
I think you were alluding to something that the Prime Minister said many years ago before the Conservatives crashed the economy. If you're going to scrap tuition fees, you have to pay for it. That isn't a priority right now, given that we're short of money.
I feel like Starmer has just reversed his claims so many times over.
Universities are saying that times are tough for them, and so in September they're set to increase their fees by £285. But what do students think? Will that make a real difference, or is it just an extra bit to pay back on the student loan? We've come to Bloomsbury to find out.
It's a little bit frustrating because obviously I remember a couple of years back before he kind of came into power when Keir was like, oh, we're not going to put the fees up, we're not going to put anything up, we're just going to, in fact, even kind of implying that perhaps there would be a reversal in the tuition fees finally after years of fake promises and whatnot. But obviously, I guess it's indicative of perhaps, I don't know if it's overambition, I don't know if it's mismanagement, I don't know what it is, but it's disappointing.
I think it's valid. It's only £250. It's in line with inflation, and I do politics, so I agree with the budget and I support the budget. And I just think in terms of the long run, it's fine. There's loads of interest rates on the student loans anyway, and I know it'll add up, but I see it as an education tax rather than debt, and it'll value me in the future.
There's a lot of people who already weren't very pleased about the sort of how high the prices are right now. And I've known a lot of people who have kind of been prevented from being able to go because of those prices, and also haven't ever really looked at the possibility of going to university because of that.
People that I know right now are still paying their bills from university, so I feel like it would stop people from going to university and pursue other routes like apprenticeship and stuff like that. But I don't think it will stop hugely, but it might affect some figures here and there. In an ideal world, I would love them to be free, but you've got people to pay, you've got buildings to pay for, and you've got academics to support, and I feel like it could put people off. But I do think recently there's been a rise in people coming to uni, and in my opinion a lot of people these days do have a degree, so it's harder to stand out in a broader field. So that's why I know I want to do my masters. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
You're an international student, so you already pay quite a lot in fees. How much are you paying per year?
I pay $35,000 a year, so doing a 4-year program, it would be $140,000.
Just arrived in London, I guess. How do you feel? Is it very expensive to live?
It is. But I was told even before I got here that it was pretty expensive, so I sort of knew that this was coming. But it's still very expensive to live here for sure.
Can I ask, do you pay for halls here? Do you live, and how much do you pay per year?
I'm not very sure per year, but I can tell you I pay around $340 per week. Yep.
It's kind of I feel a bit bad talking about this because I have so many friends who are international students who are paying double and triple the price of what we are paying, and they're getting the same kind of quality of teaching. But I think £9,000 is still ridiculous, right? And I think a European model can be considered and should be considered. I think paying much less and just distributing money a bit differently and thinking of money in terms of uni a bit differently. It's
I think again we can only really speak for our degrees, but I currently have 4 contact hours a week.
Yeah, same.
And one of my friends who is international is on the same 4 contact hours, and for her, if she doesn't go to every single thing and then anything extra, it's where's that fee going?
It's already hard enough looking for jobs once I'm going to graduate, and then kind of planning out my future, how I'm going to start saving for my own home. I feel like it's kind of low-key like a poverty trap.
I would honestly love to pay the domestic fees. I wouldn't mind at all because I'm definitely paying double of what they're paying. So.
I don't know. I think with the increase in fees, like if we could see as students like the evidence of where that money was going and like getting better value for money on all of our different degrees and like paying the staff well and like I feel like okay then yeah maybe, but then are we seeing that?
No.
I don't pay up front for my fees anyways. I rely on the government to pay for me while I'm here. So, and I rely on debt, hopefully in the future to, you know, sort me out. But again, it is obviously like, and I think it was just under like the Tory government as well, like where they've now changed it, where there's no longer a cut off when you have to pay debt. Like you continue paying it now for the rest of your life. So it's not even like you can be like, oh, but at least after 50, I don't have to pay it anymore. No, it's like, no, you're in debt for the rest of your life.
But it's also probably one of those things of you get your money's worth for what you also put into it. So I will admit I've been a criminal of not going to everything, but I think there's still a lot of opportunity. But I guess, but this is also a good university, and I think it's awkward for a lot of people, and not to come across as kind of weird about it, but it's awkward for a lot of people who aren't going to, I guess, as good universities and aren't really, but then having to pay sort of the same fees for a standard of education that isn't always going to be as high as other ones.
If you have to work to support the finances of being here in London, it then really does take away from that kind of like university experience because you don't have time for societies and like other things like that.
Like as of now, right now, the way I'm getting by in uni, I'm already having to work a part-time job 24 hours, which is insane for a student. I feel just, you know, afford rent in London, but at the same time have enough disposable income for rent and, you know, a host of other things. So for the students coming in next fall, I feel like they're really going to struggle and it's a bit unfair.
I think it was kind of inevitable because of inflation. But I also think that probably the necessary provisions haven't been made to support students enough. But I think I'm hoping that they're going to sort of bring up maintenance loans and things like that.
And did you vote for Labour?
I didn't vote, sorry. I didn't vote. If I were to vote, I voted. I don't think Labour are that radical in their policies. I don't really think they offer a firm alternative solution in comparison to the Conservative government. I think they've kind of slowly over the years, like this two-party route, this two-party system's not really working well. If I were to have voted, I would have voted for the Green Party. They sound more like my cup of tea. They sound like they kind of know what they're doing.
I did vote Labour, but I don't like Keir Starmer. So in the long run, I feel like, especially since COVID, there's a lot more to be done. Money was spent on COVID and the pandemic, so I feel like you've got to up some places somewhere, and I do think that like I said earlier, it is only 200 quid, and I just don't think it's going to be that noticeable.
I think he very clearly adjusted his policies for the latest election, and I think from what Rachel Reeves has said, they didn't quite realise the extremity of how bad the situation was. So I do think like in general they're having to find money from different places, and it's inevitable student fees are going to come into that somehow.
I have no big opinions. I don't think it's that big an increase because it's like the first time in 14 years or something.
I think
something like that.
It's been frozen since 2017.
2017, yeah. So it's not too big an increase.
Even though the amount is not a lot, I feel like it wasn't necessary because there's a decline in people going to university, especially like apprenticeship is increasing. Not a lot of people want to go to uni, so I don't think it was necessary.
I was speaking to my dad about it, and he said in the 90s when he was at uni they were fighting against the introduction of tuition fees. I don't really know how now we've introduced student fees, how we'd move away from that. I think moving away from student fees might, in some ways, I don't really know what the solution would be, to be honest. But I do think it's the fault of the Tories, like completely.
I thought I heard the best now.
Looks good.